What's going on YouTube? It's Tej back again with another video, and today I'm giving you my 2021 NFL award predictions. We're going to talk about defensive, offensive rookie of the year, comeback player of the year, coach of the year, MVP, offensive and defensive player of the year. So that out of order compared to where you see it, but those are the big time awards that I will highlight. Not going to try to predict, Walter Payton Man of the Year, or thought about maybe doing assistant coach of the year. Maybe we'll talk about that a little bit later on. But talking about the main awards today. Hopefully you all enjoyed today's video. If you do, please hit that like button. It would help me out a ton. And if you're new to the channel and want more sports content like this, please consider subscribing. And let me hear your award predictions down in the comment section. I do have to state this though. Let's all be cordial. Let's be respectful. There's really no wrong answer at this point, right? We're in late July. We haven't seen anybody play a down of the 2021-2022 NFL season yet, so everyone's guess is valid. I mean, don't go out there and say like Jeff Driscoll's going to MVP, but if you have sound reasoning and you have a hypothesis and you have, in your mind rational thinking behind it, I'm not going to knock it down, and I would hope you don't knock down mine. So let's talk about these awards down in the comment section. I respond to every comment, so I'd love to have your thoughts, and let's talk about it. And one last note, I promise we're about to get into this video, but I will be doing a video coming out on Tuesday on the Blitz. I'll have his link in the description to his channel. Definitely go check it out. Him and I are going to be talking about the San Francisco 49ers, going through their schedule, giving some predictions for games they win, which ones they lose, and overall record, what this team could potentially do. I'm excited to be on his channel, so if you're interested, check out the link down in the description. But let's go ahead and get this one underway by talking about defensive rookie of the year. To me, Jalen Phillips, I think, has the best bet. And also, I should note, I will do the similar video of this, but with betting odds implied. So like a favorite, a mid-tier, and a long shot. These are all like, gun to my head if I had to get this right. And, these three aren't, the winners by the end of the year, I lose my life. That's obviously a huge hyperbole. But these would be the people I would bet on with my life on the line to come away with the award as of this moment. So Jalen Phillips, defensive rookie of the year. I think he has the best chance really to come away as the sack leader for rookies. I do think Boogie Basham Jr. for the Bills will have a decent role pretty immediately compared to that of like Gregory Rousseau they took in the first round. But again, we'll save that for the betting video. But Jalen Phillips, good chance to be in double digits when it comes to sacks. He plays for a good defense and a team that could get into the playoffs as a wild card team. So all that pats a pretty good resume for Phillips. I do really like Jamin Davis though. It's crazy to think about Ron Rivera and Jack Del Rio, two very successful NFL linebackers, having Jamin Davis as the #1 defensive player on their board over the likes of Micah Parsons, Pat Surtain, J.C. Horn, you name it, Christian Barmore, whoever you might have seen as the best defensive player in the draft, they thought it was Jamin Davis. So, considering he was a guy who was getting better week by week at Kentucky, now he's in a situation to play under guys like Rivera and Del Rio. I think that helps him make that leap from the college game to the NFL level, and he's going to be an every down starter. Like, he's a great athlete, so you can leave him out there on third downs. He's not just going to be in running situations. He's going to be out there all 3 downs. He's going to rack up tackles for loss, and I think he's a good enough athlete to be a factor in the passing game. So he'll have some PBUs in there as well, maybe even a pick or 2. So I think he really will have a well-balanced, well-rounded stat line that could catch a lot of eyes as well. Then Asante Samuel Jr., I thought about maybe Andre Sisco. I'm trying to basically evaluate, make this well-rounded between edge rusher, tackle machine, and then DB. Realistically, Micah Parsons probably is a better bet here than Asante Samuel Jr., but I did want to get a DB in there. And I think Asante Samuel Jr. would be my pick for rookie with the most interceptions. Him or Andre Sisco, though. I think he just has great instincts, plays a lot like his dad, where he knows how to read a QB's eyes, and he fits perfectly in that Brandon Staley quarters defense where he gets the chance to do that. And he has an immediate playing, role set out for him. When they go nickel, he'll be on the outside with Michael Davis, and then Chris Harris Jr. kicks inside to play that slot role. So he'll see the field immediately, and his strengths translate more so to immediate contribution, given he is so instinctual. So I could definitely see him coming away as the DB with the most interceptions. Therefore, I had to put him on at number 3 in my defensive rookie of the year picks. On to offensive rookie of the year. This was probably the toughest one, honestly, which is wild to say. But I think this one's the toughest because I think I want to go Trey Lance. So we'll go ahead and skip to 2 here. But I don't think he gets enough sample size to garner that award. I think realistically he gets in the field, week 7, 8, 9, maybe 10. So compare that to, I think Justin Fields is going to probably see the field quicker. I think Andy Dalton's going to be your week 1 starter. It may not look good against the Rams, and they make the change to Fields. Minimum, he's probably starting by week 4. So I think Fields gets out in the field, no pun intended, before Lance does. And then I think they put up really similar production. And I think they both have good offensive minds. I know Shanahan's the guy that we all look at as like the most creative play caller, and rightfully so. He probably has that title. But Matt Nagy has done a lot with a little. Like the fact that he's gone to the playoffs 2 of the last 3 years, he's won Coach of the Year with the likes of Mitch Trubisky and Nick Foles. That's pretty impressive. Like you have to apply the situation to what Nagy's been in and really understand what he's working with. And I think with a guy like Justin Fields, I think, Andy Dalton's an upgrade over Foles and Trubisky, but given the talent that Fields has, he has a big arm, he has the mobility, he has pinpoint accuracy. Like him and Mac Jones per PFF, most accurate throws to the football in last year's draft, which is crazy. So given that skill set and a good offensive line, you have Allen Robinson and Darnell Mooney. I think since he sees the field a little bit earlier than Lance, I give him the edge, but it is razor thin between those two. And I ultimately think those are the guys that have the best chance. What may move Lance up over Fields, even if he has smaller, sample size, less games played, is the fact the 49ers probably make the playoffs if everyone's healthy. So that could ultimately move Lance over Fields. But to me, it's one of those two. And then Najee Harris comes in at number 3. It's his backfield. Benny Snell's a probable cut candidate for Pittsburgh. I think Anthony McFarland's a better complement to him anyways, this dynamic speed threat in the backfield. And the fact Harris is a good pass catcher, he's a solid route runner. So it's his backfield, his workload to have for the most part. He's active in the passing game. And if Pittsburgh, I think they ultimately stretch the field a little bit more this year compared to the short, quick passing game. But Najee Harris is going to be a factor in the flats, on angle routes. They're going to try to get him the ball short for Big Ben, who doesn't have the arm he did 5 years ago. I don't think it's as bad as a lot of people make it out to be, but it's not the same. So there's going to be a lot of production there for Najee Harris. And additionally, he's a goal line guy. So if he comes away with 8 to 10 touchdowns, he has a good case on that alone. Next up is comeback player of the year, and I have to preface, Dak Prescott is by far the betting favorite here, and he's not on this list because I have him winning a different award down the line. So, just bear with me. Otherwise, if I didn't have him winning another award, he'd be here. But comeback player of the year, this is more so narratively based. So maybe I should move Burrow up above Christian McCaffrey. But let's start about Nick Bosa, right? You go back to the Super Bowl between the Niners and the Chiefs. For the first 3 quarters, Nick Bosa was the best player on the field, bar none. Offense, defense, I don't care how you slice it. He was the best player on the field, and that was with Eric Fisher and Mitchell Schwartz. So we saw the disaster that was the Chiefs' offensive line last year, but 2 years ago, it was Bosa and Eric Armstead and company just wreaking havoc, but Bosa in specific was fantastic. So the edge, top 5 edge potential is there, right? Like this is one of the best pass rushers in football when he's out there. So his sack production is going to be through the roof. And for this award, it goes to QBs or guys who just, you can't ignore that type of production. And Nick Bosa could easily come away with 12 to 15 sacks. And the 49ers play a lot of big games on national TV. And again, it kind of feeds into that narrative. I think he is, if it's not Dak Prescott, the best, most likely guy to come away with this award, given he plays, in my opinion, the second most important position in football as an edge rusher. And he's going to load up on sacks. He's going to be a 10-plus sack guy if he plays all 17 games. And they're going to play a lot of big games on national television, so I definitely think Bosa has a clean shot at it. Additionally, the 49ers are going to be really good. So he's going to be seen as the best player on one of the best defenses on one of the best teams in the NFL. All that hypes him up a ton. Number 2, Christian McCaffrey, 1,000% potential here. That's what he did the last full season, that he was healthy. And this is going to be an offense that relies on him, right? Sam Darnold might not be the long-term answer, and if he can't make the throws and, work with DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson, he becomes that much more reliant on Christian McCaffrey. And as it stands right now, I would fall into the camp that doesn't think Darnold is anything special. I think he'll be better. This is by far the best weapons he's had around him, but the offensive line still isn't great, which doesn't help him. But this is the best situation he's found himself in, both with, offensive minds around him, but also offensive weapons. I just don't think it's going to be redeemable. I think it's too late. Maybe if Carolina had just drafted him, which was kind of the argument, maybe they should have taken Fields over J.C. Horn at 8. That's for a different day, though. I just don't know if Darnold really turns it all the way around, goes from one of the worst starting QBs in the NFL to a guy who's top 5 or whatever we deemed him to be when he was coming out of USC or whatever his potential presented itself as. Because of that, I think he relies on Christian McCaffrey that much more. I think they want to run the football a decent amount, not a ton. This is going to be a pass-heavy team, but Christian McCaffrey is an efficient enough runner to where he'll have a 1,000-yard season. That's really not too big of a benchmark anymore in the NFL, but add on the passing value that McCaffrey brings and the fact I think Darnold's going to target him a lot, that puts together a potential for McCaffrey to have another 1,000 season and, maybe say Bosa doesn't stay healthy. That might be too good of a stat line for voters to pass up. And then Joe Burrow, number 3. I put scary injury on here because, there's a reason for that, but all these guys had scary injuries, and well, maybe not Christian McCaffrey. It was just kind of nagging things, his shoulder, his leg. He had a couple things working against him. Nick Bosa's scary injury. But Joe Burrow, the reason I put that there is because it was the talk of the offseason around the Bengals, right? Like, terrible ACL injury. It really is unfortunate that happened, and we all hope that he comes back and is what he was before the injury, because he looked like a franchise guy in the making. And because of that, we all are thinking about that ACL injury, and we all talked about that offensive line, which I think is slightly better, not good, but improved from where it was last year. So if Burrow is healthy, that is going to be an insane comeback in a lot of people's minds, just given like where he was then to where he is now. Think about like Adrian Peterson, where it was like, this guy's done. There's just no way he comes back from that. And he put up an insane season. He deserved to win MVP that year, but the injury adds on to that narrative, and I think it could as well for Joe Burrow. And then that Bengals defense is not good. They're going to have to score 30-plus to win a game. And one, that situation bodes well for Burrow patting his stats, but also the situation in the sense that he has maybe the best wide receiver trio in the league with Jamar Chase, Tyler Boyd, T. Higgins. Auden Tate's their number 4. I mean, are you kidding me? And then you have Joe Mixon, who's a good pass catcher out of the backfield. We'll see if they figure out that tight end position. But nonetheless, that's an awesome group of pass catchers around Burrow. And additionally, this is a big year for Zach Taylor. And I think he's put together some impressive game plans. He's really made my Steelers look embarrassing, which is crazy to say, him versus Tomlin. You wouldn't expect Zach Taylor to be the guy who comes away with the game plan that you walk out of that game with saying, wow, Zach Taylor coached his tail off. But he did a couple times last year. So I think this is a big year for him trying to keep his job, and he'll be on his P's and Q's, and he'll have that offense clicking, given that talent. And then, if Burrow's healthy, he's going to put up numbers, so he has a good chance to come away with comeback player of the year for sure. Now we're on to defensive player of the year picks, and this might be a little biased, but let me make the argument for TJ Watt. The last 2 years, to me, he should have won. And I know Aaron Donald had an awesome year last year. And it's one of those things where I thought TJ Watt would win that award last year, just given voter fatigue. You see that a lot more in the NBA where, voters don't want to give MVPs out, 2-3 years in a row to the same guy. So there have been years where, Kobe was robbed and went to Steve Nash instead. And there's a few other examples in there. But I think this is the year, because of that, essentially works in the favor of TJ Watt, where it's like, okay, Aaron Donald has won it enough. Let's give it to TJ Watt. Though we also saw TJ Watt go 3-peat with that award. So, maybe that thinking is illogical, to put it nicely. But I think TJ Watt's going to be on one of the best defenses in football. I had him at number 3, I believe, in my defensive power rankings a couple weeks back. If you didn't see that video, definitely go back and check it out. But I think he'll be playing for one of the best defenses and a team that may well lead the league in sacks again. And if he comes away with 15 to 18 sacks, he has built an argument for himself without a doubt. Then we get to Aaron Donald, number 2. He's no doubt best defensive player in football right now, and he might be the best football player in the league right now. Like, take away position value, you might think Aaron Donald's better than Patrick Mahomes. To me, it's 1A, 1B. It just comes down to, are you taking into a consideration the QB position versus IDL? If you are, it's Mahomes. If not, I think I might lean Donald in that discussion, but either way, it's really close. So because he's the best defensive player in football, he's always going to be in the mix. Like, there's nothing more to say there. This guy's going to have an insane amount of production. He's going to have a huge impact on one of the best defenses in football, and he makes guys around him better. Like Leonard Floyd all of a sudden becomes a 10-sack type of dude because he plays with Aaron Donald. Before that, it was Dante Fowler Jr. So he just has that effect on his teammates, and, that's why he comes with this award so often. And number 3 is Myles Garrett. this dude has all the talent in the world. Like, if you've ever seen any video about this guy working out, I mean, he is built from a lab. I don't know where if there was a real life super soldier, it'd be Myles Garrett. Myles Garrett's the closest thing to a real life Captain America based off his like body, his athletic ability. Dude's a freak, and he could lead the league in sacks, no doubt about it. He could edge out T.J. Watt or Aaron Donald for that award. And I think the Browns are one of the best teams in the AFC. They are my pick right now to win the AFC North. Maybe they're the 2 seed. Maybe they edge out Buffalo for that seeding, or maybe they're 3. Either way, they're going to be one of the best teams in the AFC where I stand right now. And he could lead that team in sacks and be the reason that defense goes from, okay the past few years to really, really good. They spent a lot of money and they've tried to patch up a lot of their holes, but he could be the reason that defense is considered elite, because if you have an elite edge rusher, it makes everything else fall into place, and Garrett could have that type of impact for Cleveland. On to Offensive Player of the Year. This is why Dak Prescott was in my Comeback Player of the Year rankings. I think he wins Offensive Player of the Year. That team was going to have to put up points because that defense is not good. Similar to what we talked about with Joe Burrow and the Bengals. They're going to be in a lot of shootouts. Now, I think the Cowboys' defense is a little better than Cincy's, but there's not much separation between the two. So Prescott could lead the league in both yards as well as passing touchdowns because of the situation he's in. But additionally, he's got Amari Cooper. He's got CeeDee Lamb. He has Michael Gallup. Blake Jarwin, Dalton Schultz may not be great, but they're both fine. Zeke Elliott, Tony Pollard, nice duo in the backfield. A good enough offensive line when healthy. This guy is going to put up some astronomical numbers. And again, kind of goes into the narrative thing, so maybe Comeback Player of the Year is the more likely scenario, but that injury was so scary. And that team was so bad without him last year. Like, it just was not good with Andy Dalton. Compared to what I thought it would be, I thought Dalton was okay, but it just did not come to fruition. Now he could potentially lead the Cowboys to a division title if he's out there and on the field. And if not the division title, I have him making the wild card in my way too early season predictions video. And I think that's what this team should be aiming for. And if Prescott gets him there with some gaudy numbers, he, 1, front runner probably for Comeback Player of the Year. 2, should really be in consideration for Offensive Player of the Year. And that's why I have him winning an award in this video. Number 2, Josh Allen. I say they have a chance to be the number 1 seed. It is certainly not likely. I think Kansas City is by far the best team in the AFC. But the Bills have a pathway there, especially if they win the game they play against the Chiefs. That tiebreaker could be huge. And if, the Bills win the number 1 seed in the AFC and Allen puts up the numbers he did last year, he is tough to take this award away from. Even if they're the number 2 seed, and he puts up some gaudy numbers, he puts together an awesome resume and a strong case to come away with this award because this team wants to throw the football. Additionally, Josh Allen has some running upside, right? This guy is maybe the best goal line back on the Bills roster, and he is super productive when inside, the 10, inside the 5-yard line. So he has rushing upside. He could pat those rushing touchdowns in specific. This team wants to throw the football. I know they lose John Brown, but I think Emmanuel Sanders adds maybe a little bit to that element, just given he can be better in that 10 to 19 middle of the field area. And then Gabriel Davis and Sanders are going to have to pick up what John Brown was as a deep threat. But I think those two can do it. You add Sanders as an intermediate factor to that offense. I think Allen puts up some gaudy numbers. If he just limits the turnovers, he's got a strong case to come away with this award. And number 3, Davante Adams. I could have easily just made this another quarterback like Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, take your pick. But I figured if Davante Adams leads the league in receiving touchdowns again, why not, right? Like, there should be a case around that. And he was just amazing last year. Like, I think the wide receiver position, you could make a case for, 3, 4, maybe 5 guys who are the most talented wide receiver in the league, but right now it's Davante Adams. He's the best. Look at his numbers last year. Dude was unbelievable, and he was the only guy, really, that teams would focus in on. I know MVS had some big plays, and Allen Lazard was solid, but inside the 10, defenses knew the ball was going to Davante Adams. Robert Tonyan also had 10 touchdowns, so I guess that helps, but Davante Adams is going to be force-fed targets no matter what. And I think Rodgers does end up playing. I've kind of flip-flopped on this because it is that kind of situation, but I think if he stays in Green Bay, it's just for this year, and then he'll have something to where he has assurance to where he'll be traded next offseason. And if this is like a pseudo last run at it between Adams and Rodgers, they could put up some scary big numbers. So maybe you think Rodgers should be number 3 here, but I think Davante Adams could put up an awesome case for being, wide receiver 1 and making a case to be Offensive Player of the Year. On to the second to last award we'll talk about, Coach of the Year. This one's a layup. I'm sorry. This one is so obvious. I know. Kyle Shanahan, he's probably the best play caller in football. He's the most imaginative, most creative offensive mind in the game right now. And that's, not to take away from a guy like Frank Reich, who's on my list, but Kyle Shanahan is just the guy. He knows how to create running schemes. He knows how to get the most out of, undrafted late round guys like Raheem Mostert and company. And then also, he just makes the game easy for quarterbacks. And this is a team that has the opportunity to go from, holding the 12th overall pick last year, largely due to injuries, but they can go from, picking in the top 12 to making the playoffs. And in my way too early season preview, I had them winning that division. I think the best team. And I think it's close between them and the Rams, but I think Shanahan plays a factor into why the 49ers come away with that NFC West crown. So if they get back in the playoffs, that's a strong case in itself for him to come away with this award. Additionally, I put Trey Lance factor on there. If he has Trey Lance playing like I think he will once he becomes the starter, if he becomes a starter, that is a big if as of right now, then, it's going to be tough to argue against it, right? Like if he has Lance looking like what he potentially could be, a true dual threat with a huge arm who can stretch the field, but also is smart, cerebral, only had, 2 picks through his time at North Dakota State, just will avoid throwing at linebackers like we've seen, Jimmy Garoppolo have troubles with at times, and then also be a dynamic runner, someone who can run right through you. Lance can put up some gaudy numbers, and then because of that, as Kyle Shanahan's the play caller, that's tough to argue. And even if it's not Lance, if he has Jimmy Garoppolo looking like top half the league caliber QB, top 16 worthy, and this team gets back in the playoffs and they're basically back where they were in 2019, he's got a strong argument there as well. But if it's not Kyle Shanahan, I feel pretty strongly about the next 2 guys, both coming from the AFC. Sean McDermott has a chance again, like I said with, Josh Allen. This team has a chance to be the best team in the AFC. Not likely, it's a long shot, but it could happen. And if the Bills do, it's tough to take this award away from Sean McDermott, but with how good he's had that defense play over the past few years, it's fantastic. And now I think they have the most likely opportunity throughout the Sean McDermott era to have a really good pass rush. I don't want to say really good, but quality, above average pass rush. They just have such good depth. They don't have any guy right now that you point to and say, that dude's 12 sacks, year in and year out. Like, that dude's going to get the job done. But they have a really nice rotation with guys like Jerry Hughes, Mario Addison, Boogie Basham Jr., who I mentioned earlier, Greg Rousseau as well. Ed Oliver, I think, takes a leap forward as an interior pass rusher, which helps everybody else's job as well. I think Tremaine Edmonds takes a step forward. You got to think he was 19 when he got drafted, so he's only 24 years old. I know it's year 4 or 5, but this is the year I think he takes that leap forward and becomes a top tier linebacker. Not quite Fred Warner level, but think of that jump he made this past year, and all that culminates with a good offense. That's going to put together a really good resume for Sean McDermott, and he was in the running last year. I think he was a strong candidate last year, so because of him having a good case last year, if that continues and carries over to this year, he puts together an even better resume for this award. And then Frank Reich. And this team one has a chance to be, 10-7 minimum, 11-6. I know I've been low on the Colts. You go to my season preview series, the one with the most downvotes or most dislikes is the Colts video, because I know I have been labeled as this Colts hater. I don't hate the team. I think Frank Reich is one of the best play callers in football. I think they have an awesome defense. I'm just not sold on Carson Wentz. But that leads me to my next point. This team, and in specific Frank Reich, have the chance to take on a project that felt too daunting for anyone else to do and resurrect the career of Carson Wentz. And I don't think it's likely they get back to 2017 Wentz, but even if he's not quite that good, if he's half a step down and he's just Pro Bowl level quarterback, and they take him from the worst QB in the NFL last year to a Pro Bowl guy, that is an awesome argument for Frank Reich to have as Coach of the Year. And then because of that, I don't know if they win the division because I still like Tennessee a lot, but they're probably going to make the playoffs as a wild card team, be an 11, maybe even 12-win team. If Carson Wentz is that good, it'd be tough to argue against them. And maybe you still think if Wentz is that good, maybe they are better than the Titans, just given how good that defense is. But if all that comes to fruition and breaks in the favor of Frank Reich, I'd have a hard time not saying he's the Coach of the Year. So definitely take some stretches. You had to lean on a few asterisks, but you could also see the pathway in which Frank Reich is deserving of this award. Last but not least, the MVP award. We'll start bottom to top. Dak Prescott, he's the only guy to get mentioned a few different times, at least listed for multiple awards. I think he's got a strong case. If this team comes away with a 12-5 record and really just hits the ceiling for what their potential could be, it's tough to not give him this award given how bad they looked last year. It's that game of comparison, right? Like when the Colts lost Peyton Manning and then the next year he goes out and balls out in Denver. A little bit better of a situation for him, but you just see the disparity of what a team looks like without that guy, and then you see him on the field and you're like, wow, this is just insane. It's that compare and contrast element. And I think that could be in play for Dak Prescott. He's going to have some gaudy numbers, and Dallas has potential to make the playoffs. So all that plays in his favor. Patrick Mahomes, most talented quarterback of all time, in my opinion. Not the greatest. That's the guy who comes in at number one. He is the most accomplished. I have this argument with LeBron James, Michael Jordan all the time. If you're interested, follow me on Twitter. We can talk about it in my DMs. But I think there's a difference between greatest / most accomplished and then most talented. And Patrick Mahomes right now is the most talented. He also has a pathway to becoming the greatest, but losing the Super Bowl to Brady last year didn't help that case. But regardless, off my soapbox, Mahomes, most talented quarterback. He makes throws that shouldn't be possible, and he has some running elements to him. He's just insane. He makes so much happen off script. So obviously, if you're accounting for position value, and even if you're not, he's maybe the best player in the NFL. If you are considering QB value, he is the most valuable player in the league because of that. So, he's involved in the QB picks. And then number one, Tom Brady. Look, he was great last year, specifically in the second half, but he played the entire year on a torn MCL. And I should note, disclaimer, believe me or not, that's for you to decide, but I am giving you my word. I made this ranking and these predictions prior to me finding out he played last year with the torn MCL. Then I heard that news, and it was just the confirmation bias I needed. I was like, yep, Tom Brady's winning the MVP this year. He's also a really solid bet for that award. Not great. The odds have, skewed in his favor a little bit, but still solid. But he was great in the second half of last year, playing on a torn MCL, so now he's healthy. Ideally, he carries over that second half of the year into a full season's worth of production. He has an awesome group of pass catchers around him, 3 really good tight ends, Cam Brate, O.J. Howard, Rob Gronkowski, his guy. The wide receiver room is fantastic with Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Antonio Brown, Tyler Johnson. They just drafted Jalen Darden. Also, they have Scotty Miller, an awesome offensive line that just got that much deeper with the drafting of Robert Hainsey out of Notre Dame. Like, that core is just fantastic. And then he plays for Bruce Arians, who Brady broke the mold here. A lot of times, first-year QBs under Bruce Arians struggle, but then they take a leap forward in year 2. And if that trend continues, given how good Brady was last year, that is scary. So I don't know if he necessarily gets better. I just am anticipating year 2, basically the entire year, and that is good enough to win an MVP. And basically, that year 2 leap we normally see from QBs fights the age regression, because I know he has battled off the cliff, as Max Kellerman has called it. He has battled off Father Time for so long, and I think this helps that scenario. Year 2 in the offense, being familiar, having more chemistry with all the guys, helps counteract what he is naturally losing. And eventually he will stop playing football, but I think he will win MVP this year, and it will just add to his legacy as the most accomplished quarterback of all time. Maybe the most accomplished football player of all time. Won't knock you if you think that. But that's going to do it for my 2021 NFL Awards prediction video. Comment your thoughts down below. Who do you think wins these awards? Let's be respectful. Let's be cordial, but I would love to have your thoughts on this discussion. I respond to every comment, so let's talk about it down below. Hopefully you all enjoyed today's video. If you did, please hit that like button. It would help me out a ton. And if you're new to the channel, want more sports content like this, please consider subscribing. That's going to do it for this one. Hope you all have a fantastic rest of your day. And until next time, my name is Tej, and I'm signing off.